Hello, everyone. Today we are making a volcano-inspired acrylic birthday card. This painting turned into one of those relaxing, intuitive art sessions where I just let the paint do its thing. I was inspired by recent volcanic activity in the Philippines and memories of studying volcanoes in college. And so this acrylic painting slowly turns into a bit of a tropical jungle landscaped with an erupting volcano, glowing lava, and some wispy clouds, lots of happy little trees. So, as usual, I start by taping my watercolor card down to just a generic clipboard so I have a comfortable place to work. From there, I'm going to mix a bright ultramarine blue sky using a well-loved, slightly nasty cold palette. I'm just going to kind of roll with whatever I get. That is definitely my painting process, starting with a rough idea and allowing the artwork to evolve naturally. This painting is heavily inspired from when I saw Mount Arenal erupt in Costa Rica back in the 90s. And so even though the current eruption in the Philippines looks completely different, it reminded me of how fascinated I've always been by volcanoes, lava, geology, and even tropical landscapes. So today I'm painting this a little bit from memory, a little bit of intuition, and just plain creativity. So the background is starting with a soft, bright blue sky, and I can see as the paint is going on that it's not covering completely evenly. So I think I'm going to eventually put in some white clouds for texture and depth, and also it's just going to cover up those white spots. Next, I'm going to build the base of the jungle with some forest green. And to get that, I'm going to mix cadmium yellow medium with the ultramarine blue and just a little bit of white, maybe a little bit of black. But I'm just going to start with that green color to get the base of the jungle. The colors are not necessarily cooperating at first. And at one point in this video, as I'm mixing, I dropped the green stick that I used somewhere in my workspace. Um, so at some point, I might find a mystery object with a green spot in my paint studio. That is part of my fun process of painting. One of the things I really love about this loose painting style is that it feels forgiving. When art feels too high stakes, it can completely shut down the creative process. For me, making art, editing YouTube videos is a way for me to wind down at the end of the day. It's relaxing. It taps into my scientific nature, so it's kind of experimental. It's making a mess, sometimes in my paint studio, and just seeing where the process leads me rather than trying to force a perfect outcome. And that is something that I've noticed that simply practicing and posting more videos and painting more often has naturally improved some of my techniques, even just in the last month. While the jungle dries, I'll start by mixing the paints for the volcano. I'm just using plain Mars Black for the volcano, but the lava is going to be a mix of the cadmium yellow medium and cadmium red medium. Both have warm tones to them, so they turn a nice orange color. And when I mix it, to me, it just looks like I'm mixing ketchup and mustard together on the palette. So as we build this volcano with paint, I'm not going to go into too great of detail as We talk about the difference between the volcanic eruptions between a volcano in Hawaii or the Philippines or in Costa Rica. They're all going to behave very differently. So I don't want to get too scientific about this. And even in my volcano painting, I'm completely missing the caldera at the top where the lava would be ideally pouring out of. So it's not really meant to be scientifically accurate, but anybody looking at it can tell that it's roughly a volcano. And it's more of a memory inspired painting on just my memory of being in a tropical region, watching a volcano erupt. Now that the sky is dry, I'm going to add just some very dry brush strokes with a little bit of white paint on there. And it's going to represent the idea of clouds and cover up some of those places where there was some missing paint. Just give the sky a little bit of movement. To add the foliage to the jungle, I'm going to start with a darker green. So that same green that I mixed, I'm just going to add a little bit of black to that. And I have some squishy craft brushes that I use. And they create really good foliage when I just mash them around. And so I don't want to use my nicer brushes for that. And so I'm just going to start with a little bit of black, and then I'll do a layer of the regular green on top of that dark green, and then I'll finish off with a light green to give some depth and variation in the leaves. Now that the volcano is dry, I can add that ketchup and mustard mix of orange paint. And as I'm putting it on, I can see that the black is kind of covering it up, so I end up applying it in very thick chunks. And as that's applying, I recognize that maybe a few pyroclastic clouds and dark gray clouds might be appropriate as this little fictional volcano is erupting. For one final touch, I'm going to add the trunks to the trees and just show, kind of give these trees some definition. Um, I like to think of these as happy little trees. If you enjoy relaxing and watching these acrylic tutorial painting videos, intuitive art, any of my science inspired landscapes, any of that type of work, or just like hearing some of my stories, please make sure that you like and subscribe and come paint with me again next time.